What I want to really focus on is Metta as support for insight practice, as support for wisdom, as an ally, as a kind of companion. It's really beautiful when you sit and meditate to see what it's like. And this is what the Venerable Analayo often invites, is to say, Metta, my friend, come join me. And let it be an energetic relational presence. Isn't that beautiful? Just to bring it in. And so it is lovely too. I don't know who else has really practiced the metta in this way, as this radiating practice, and as Venerable Analayo does. Thinking about this, often what can be a curtain around the heart. Do you guys know what I mean by that? That often the heart feels obscured. The image of the sun, the simile, is a really beautiful one because it's so simple. It's a natural presence that's always here in our lives that we can relate to. And it's almost as if what Venerable Analayo is saying is that the heart is always radiating, and he often says this, I've said this before, but it can be obscured by clouds, right? The sun's out now. When I came this morning, there were clouds, but now it's come out. So I find that to be beautiful. And how many of you, when the sun is obscured by clouds, how many of you just go, oh yeah, but the sun is still there? Do you ever doubt that the sun is there? You don't. And that's the way we kind of relate. We start to verify our relationship with our own radiating hearts, is that often it can be obscured by conditioning of all kinds. And that through practice, it's a practice of purification where we're allowing the dissolving of that. But deep down, we might know that it's already there. It's already here. Venerable Analayo says that metta, and I'm going to talk about this, it really is the quality that liberates the heart from ill will, right? From hindrances. So I'll talk more about this. So the human condition is really challenging. It is, right? We're always in every moment of our lives, through our insight practice, we become more and more aware. We wake up to this truth more and more, is that we're always in every moment in relationship to reality, to the present moment, to the way it is. Isn't it true? It's just always here, isn't it? Don't you just want to break sometimes? But it's really always here. And this is this relational truth as we wake up more and more in the present moment. And you can ask yourself, how's that relationship to what is now, what is here? How's that going? How's that going? What is that like? What is your part of that relationship? What are you bringing to it? How are you relating to your experience moment to moment? And how we're relating to what is here, to the way it is right now, sets into motion what our experience will be. How we are relating sets everything into motion. Are we relating to our moment-to-moment experience with aversion? How many moments in our life are we in a kind of a place in our mind-heart where we're saying, oh, it shouldn't be like this? Or, oh, I wish it were different. I mean, come on, right? The depth of this tendency to be in opposition or not to be with things as they are, right? And this has consequences for us. And I just want to ask, I can open it up to the group. How does it feel? How does it feel for you when you become aware, when there's knowing awareness? And I'll talk about how this is akin to metta. How does it feel when you're relating to the way things are in any moment with aversion or with resistance? How does it feel? Does anyone want to say? Painful, constricted. Yeah, there's a feeling of contraction and tightness and stress, right? Anybody else? We're learning to notice this. Neutral. Oh, just nothing, right? Just kind of like, yeah. Oh, well then that's good when there's some awareness around it, that then that can change the experience right there, which is what we're learning in our practice. Yeah. So what's beautiful about that is that we can be resisting or be in opposition to any moment of our lives, any condition, any experience. But if we hold it with awareness, it becomes less of a charge. And maybe that's what you're kind of pointing to, when there's awareness present in it. So that's the beginning of freedom. So the way that the mind, heart, and remember from Buddhist perspective, when we talk about mind, it's referring to mind, heart. It is both and. So we are really tuning into how we're relating to moment experience, because it is so consequential. How we are relating to it determines our experience. So this is a very profound insight. And it can be really challenging in our lives because there's so much going on for us to bring awareness to how we're relating moment to moment. Of course, when we go on meditation retreat, we can really slow things down. Who's been on meditation retreat? You know the experience when things get slowed down enough, the conditions are a little bit less constant and complicated, and we can start to know a little bit more of how we're relating. And we become more fully aware of our conditioning, of the conditioned mind. And we can become more fully aware of the conditioned mind as it is with Metta. So the attitude of loving kindness, of goodness, of goodwill, it can support our insight practice profoundly. Because remember, like the sun, it can shine into any experience and illuminate it as it is. Moments when we are caught, when we are in that kind of trance of not wanting, or that trance of wanting. And that we can really be with it in a non-reactive, very friendly way. Not in a cheesy way, right? Do you guys know when a good friend can be with you when you're in a bad place? Do you guys know what that feels like? And that's that friend that can really be with you in a real way, that goes, oh yeah, and really sit with you in that. So this is really the quality. It's a real, beautiful, authentic being with, that we're learning to catch and to sit with in our experience, no matter where we are. And this can be a real balm. We often use the Metta chant, and I'll read this to you, that this can be the attitude with which you can invite and begin to rest in more and more, no matter what's happening. And this is beautiful. Listen to these words, and they date back to the Buddha. I will abide pervading in all four directions, above and below. So you see it's in every direction. It's really pulling back the curtain. Sometimes when I practice, I literally do this with my hand. And you can see how it feels to just do that. It feels good. With this heart imbued with metta, abundant, exalted, free from hostility and ill will, I will abide in all directions. There's something about the word abide that I find really beautiful, because it's like bathing. Have any of you had an experience in the sun where you're just soaking it up? Do you know what I mean by that? There's not a lot of doing. There's not a lot of striving. So it is really abiding in this light of knowing awareness that can be with anything equally. And this is the abiding. And we can really bring this quality directly into our meditative practice. We can call it metta for sure. but we can just know this quality more and more. So it's really kind of an act of faith. And you can turn the Metta chant into your Vipassana practice. And we tend to be, as I was saying, we tend to be clinging to this or pushing that away. And we tend to be in constant, what's called constant reactivity. There's a quote from the Buddha. He says, I love this. And it's really where he's pointed at this constant reactivity, and that metta can be like the cool water that we begin to just allow ourselves to rest in. He says, we're always burning. See if this feels accurate for you. We're always burning. The eye is burning. Visible forms are burning. Consciousness is burning. Eye contact is burning. Also, whatever is felt as pleasant or painful or neither, painful, pleasant, or neither, arises with eye contact as its condition. That too is burning. He says, burning with what? Burning with the fire of greed, the fire of hate, the fire of delusion. So we're always burning with what's called the hindrances. You all know the hindrances? And I'll just, it's this aversion and greed, delusion and ignorance, along with restlessness and doubt. And so metta becomes, do you relate to that we're always burning? Do you relate? Does everyone kind of feel into that when you become present to it? We're just always reacting to all of the constant flow of experience. And when we can slow down and become present, metta can become this quality almost like cool water that we begin to pour onto this burning. And as Venerable Analayo said, metta is this cool water that frees the heart from ill will. And it's the really freeing of the hindrances. Has anyone had the experience of being on retreat where the hindrances are abated and the heart and mind become somewhat free and rests? Does everyone know the experience? Lots of hands are up. So you know what I'm talking about, right? And this is the beautiful gift of metta. If we weave it and allow it to be part of our practice full on, we begin to know more and more what it's like to be free of the hindrances, to be fully present in loving awareness, in fully accepting and inclusive and accepting of all that is arising in any moment. Remember too, it doesn't mean that you're liking it. It doesn't have anything to do with preference. And that's really important to note. It's not that you have to like it. It's allowing ourselves to be present in any moment so that the heart mind can be free. And then there's an experience of freedom in that moment, of seeing things clearly, of navigating our lives with more skill. And then we suffer less and we cause less suffering to all of those around us. Do you see the power of this? The wholesome power of it. To be free of the burning in the world is like a really radical thing. Do you see in the world all the burning? Yeah. Do you see how things are just on fire right now? Do you feel me? Have you ever seen somebody who's cooled down? Do you notice the quality of somebody who's cooled down amidst the burning in the world? Do you know what I mean by this? This is beautiful. And isn't it like a cool drink of water? And that I want to say that through this quality of allowing it all to be, paradoxically, it frees us from the suffering, from the burning that is so often associated with the human condition. I wanted to just talk about the hindrances just really briefly from a neurological point of view, because the Buddha was so genius to see the burning, to know the reactivity, the natural reactivity. And often we can collapse into self-doubt and self-criticism around it, right, everyone? What can free us from that also is to notice that, who knows the negativity bias? I've talked about it before, some of you know it. This is just the natural tendency from a neurological perspective. We are wired to worry. Do you feel that that's true? We are wired, it's handed down through generations because it has kept us alive. It is the part of our mind that is constantly on the lookout for what could go wrong, right? It's almost like it's battleground ready, always surveying the horizon for the next bad thing that could get us. Do you know what I mean? And oftentimes it's hypervigilant, especially in conditions in the present, in our present life. And it can take over. And that's why metta is so important, to bring metta to the negativity bias, to say this is a very innocent, natural, also essential. It's not all bad at all. It's kept us alive for generations. It's okay to be kind of reactive a lot, to be suspicious. Listen, don't you agree there's a lot of reasons to be angry and fearful today, right? We want to respect that. This is wholesome also. But when we can slow down and bring this quality of friendship and shine light onto the negativity bias, what it can do is it can kind of break the trance of that. You know, mindfulness is shown to be one of the only things to deactivate the negativity bias. Have you ever practiced where you're able to become present, able to anchor into the conditions of the present moment, where the mind-heart becomes free through mindfulness, and suddenly it is like a trance is broken. Do you know what I mean? It does feel like, we become free of some of that constant, almost primitive worry, right? So this is what we're learning to do. And I would say that loving kindness might be the more important survival mechanism today, right? That the human race needs a new default mode in the brain, mind. And that today, I think it's taking us into such terrible territory. Wouldn't you agree, everyone? It's overactive and it needs correcting. But remember, metta is protective. It's not like we're just going to go like an idiot into the world and love everybody. It's not like that. Do you know what I mean, everyone? It's wise. There's a really deep quality of being able to wake up in a protective way, to be cooled down, and to walk through the world in a way where there's less suffering and less harm. So let me see if there was something else I wanted to say. And so when we bring metta to our experience in this really natural way, often we can, with metta, with friendship, we can say, the mind is like this, it is like this, right? We can just kind of know it. There is a knowing in this quality of light that allows the heart and the hindrances to quiet down. And remember, we're allowing metta to simply dissolve the clouds of the hindrances. We're letting that kind of dissolve so that we can know the truer aspect of the heart that can shine and be free. This is a beautiful quote by Gwendolyn Brooks. She's an African-American poet. She was the poet laureate. And I love this quote because I think it really kind of captures a little bit of this quality that we can bring more and more into our daily life, into every moment, actually. It's from a book that she wrote called Maud Martha, but this is just a quote from the book that I wanted to share. She says, go home to your children, she urged, to your wife or your husband. She opened up the trap and the mouse vanished. So she's talking to a mouse that she's setting free. Suddenly she was conscious of a new cleanness in her. A wide air walked in her. A life had blundered its way into her power and had been hers to preserve or destroy. She had not destroyed. And the center of that simple restraint was creation. She had created a piece of life, and it was wonderful. Why, she thought, as her height doubled, why, I'm good. I'm good. She ironed her apron, her back was straight, her eyes were mild and soft, with a godlike loving kindness. It's a beautiful quote, isn't it? With a godlike loving kindness, so simple. So goodness is like this, and it's available to us when we show some restraint, right? When there's that quality of restraint. I also wanted to read to you, and then I want to open up to questions, and we can share a little bit more about this. You can come back in. Oh, you have to go? This is a quote from Arthur Miller. It's from his play After the Fall. I think also Metta can really allow us to bring into different conditions in our life that are so painful, that are so hard to turn to, and also into parts of ourselves. Aren't we just a collection of so many parts? You know, parts that are often exiled or banished. Do you guys know what I mean by this? Do you have parts that you push away? Parts that are not in the light within your own being, that you often feel are not worthy of this light? And so this is a beautiful quote from After the Fall. He says, or a character in the play says, I think it's a mistake to ever look for hope outside of oneself. The same dream returned each night until I dared not go to sleep and I became quite ill. I dreamed I had a child, and even in the dream, I saw it was my life. And it was an idiot, and I ran away. But it always crept over my lap again, clutched at my clothes until I thought, if I could kiss it, whatever in it was my own, perhaps I could sleep. And I bent to its broken face, and it was horrible, but I kissed it. I think one must finally take one's life into one's arms. Does this resonate for anybody? How often are we abandoning and banishing these parts, these aspects of our experience? And you can feel the healing power of turning to what might be horrible. I will say, and many of you know this online and here, when we do stop, listen, you should be so proud of yourself you're here. It can be painful to stop and to become present and to listen and to open to all that is here, because doesn't it start to creep in, everyone? And can't it be scary to look at these parts, right? And Metta says, okay, the wisdom of it says, you know, I'm going to take this in and I'm going to kiss it. And so it's always within our choice, within our capacity to do this in any moment. And so it's deep practice, right? I don't want to sugarcoat it at all. But I will say that in my own practice, over 20 years of meditating and going on retreat, all those dark places, I have really learned to welcome them all in. And it's made all the difference. And then, as that beautiful poem said, wherever I go, I am home. There is no place to fear.